So today's Gomo webinar is all about how to pace and manage your learner journey using creative interactions. So this is going to be a bit more of a sort of technical deep dive from some of our recent webinars, where we wanted to have a look at the whole learner journey through the courses that you create. And we hope that this is going to be of benefit whether you're an experienced Gomo user, and I can see that we have quite a few familiar names there, so thank you for joining us, or whether you're just exploring Gomo and having a look at its capabilities, or even if you're using another authoring tool. And we hope that the principles that we're going to be showing here will be useful, whatever tool you're using. So just to get us underway, just like to run through the agenda today. So what we're going to be having a look at is controlling this whole learner journey, the whole learner journey flow through a course that you create. So initially we'll be looking at the concept of locking screens. When would we want to prevent a learner just from clicking next to move through from screen to screen? What are the methods that we can use there? When might we want to use those? But then also to look at that higher level about if we have a menu of content, about when we might want to gate access to create a sequence through the learning. And then we're going to move on to have a look at the whole area of dynamic branching. So how do we dynamically control the path that the learner's taking through a course? But just before we go into that, just so that I can get a better sense of your particular interests here, we're just going to pop up a quick poll here. And the first poll is just about what describes you here, about whether you're already a Gomo user, whether you're just trying out Gomo, or whether you're quite happy with your existing authoring tool. And that would just help me to pace this a bit better for you. So do just find that poll panel, which Harley has kindly popped up on the screen there. And okay, I can see that the voting's going on here in the poll. And that's great. So thank you very much, everyone. I can see that we have quite a blend, that roughly half of you are already Gomo users, another quarter are just interested in trying out Gomo, and then the other quarter is that you're already quite happy with your current authoring tool. So thank you for that, and that will help me to pace that. And also, we just have just one further quick poll here, which Harley's just going to pop up, about how confident are you about using interactive elements in your course to boost learner engagement? And I can see that we have the poll results coming in there. So you can see the figures building up. So that's great. Thank you very much. So I can see there that that we have a range of confidence levels there in terms of using these interactive elements there. So thank you for that. And what we're going to do is to dive in and just have a look straight away at some of these techniques. So, of course, today I'm going to be using Gomo, but I hope that the principles that we're going to be looking at here are going to be applicable to whatever tool that you're using. So the first thing that we're going to look at is about just locking screens. Now, as you'll all know, if you've designed any kind of e-learning course, or if you've just ever used an e-learning course, that the temptation for learners is just to get through it as quickly as possible, just clicking the next button as rapidly as they can to go through that. But as learning designers, that you might want to control that. And again, this is entirely up to you. I know that some learning designers like it to be completely free and not to force a learner down any path or to prevent them moving on. But for other people, at certain points, they want to make sure that the learner is actually fully engaging with the content. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to quickly create a new course in Gomo, and we'll have a look at what we typically get out of the box with the learning authoring tool. So I'm I'm just going to here, just give it a name. We'll call this one Learner Journey. I'm just going to select one of the standard themes. You'll probably recall that in Gomo, a course gets its look and feel through the use of a theme, essentially a style template there. And I'm just going to take these top level building blocks that we call topics in Gomo. Essentially, it's the way that we're going to break up the actual learning content into these high level building blocks of topics. In turn, those topics are going to consist of a number of screens that relate to that topic that the learner is going to work through. So I'm going to say that I want an introduction. I want a menu because I want the learner to be able to choose where they're going to go, but we're going to be having a look at how we can just control when they can move on to different topics. And also here, I'm going to say that I think I need 4 learning topics to start, and we're going to have a look at gating the content within the topics. So I'm just going to click Create here. So what Gomo is doing for me here is that it's just going to create an outline structure for me here. So we can see that our basic structure here is going to go from an introduction into a menu, and then we have this simple branching out to these 4 learning topics. And within that, let me just kick off our preview ready there. Within that, by default, that the learner could choose from the menu to go into any of these topics, and within those topics, then they could just move through the screens as quickly as they want. So here is the preview of this structure. So here's my introduction. I go into the menu, and here are my menu buttons. And at the moment, I can access these in any order whenever I want. And if I go into one of these topics, I have content on the screen. I also have a next button here that just allows me to move straight on and so on. But I want to, first of all, introduce some kind of control there at the screen level. So what I'm going to do is to go into one of these learning topics, and we're going to begin to put some interactive content in here. So what I'm going to do here is just click on this first topic, and this is just going to open up the topic in the editor. By the way, I'll also just say welcome to those of you who've just tuned in. We're very pleased to have you for this latest Gomo webinar. Feel free to find the question panel in the GoToWebinar box there, and do ask questions or make comments as we go along, and I'll try and make sure that I'm monitoring that as we progress today. So first of all, let's add in some content. So Gomo adds in some dummy content for us here, and I'm going to say, well, actually, I want something a bit more interactive than that. So first of all, what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to add in some interactive elements. So the way that we do that within the Gomo tool is to look at our list of assets. These are all the different types of things that we can add in, from basic things like text and images, but also these interactive elements. So for example, an accordion is a nice way to structure text so that we have headings, and then you click on or tap on the headings if you're on a mobile device, and it just expands to show the content. So it makes that screen a bit more interactive. And then I'm also going to add in, say, a film strip, one of the many types of these assets that we have in Gomo, and you'll find similar interactions in other tools, to give a sequence of images and associated text. Again, all of these things are designed to get away from just this idea of throwing some text and then image on the screen. The user clicks next to move on to read more text, see another image. So we're trying to get away from that whole sort of PowerPoint type presentation of learning materials. So here, I just save this, and let's just quickly preview this to see what this gives us. So it's just going to apply my changes and then apply the theme, the styling to it. And I'm rather than having to run the whole thing right from the beginning, I can just preview from the screen that I was editing. So it's just going to apply that. So here we go. Here's that screen. So we have the accordion, which I can just Click on heading and expand. I've also got the film strip, which is just going to show me a sequence of images. So that's quite nice and interactive. But notice that I've always got this next button at the side here. So from the learner perspective, I don't have to do all of this. I could just skip through it and quick, let's get through this and just click next. But from the learning design point of view, you might say, well, actually, I don't want them to be able to carry on until they've actually looked at all of the content on the screen. The screen is designed to be interactive. We structured the learning material to make it engaging, and we don't want them just to move on straight away. So let's have a look at the technique for actually deciding when that next button is going to appear. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to that screen. And we have this technique in Gomo called display conditions. These are ways to be able to show and hide things on the screen based on certain things happening. And in this particular case, I want to find that next button, and I want to apply a condition to it to say, well, don't show the next button until everything that a learner can do on this screen has been done. And the way that we do that is that you find the screen properties. And what we'll find here is the navigation and tracking section. This is all to do with those next and back buttons. So if I click that, this is showing me the next and back buttons. Now I could just remove the next button altogether, but that would mean that the learner just can't move on under any circumstances. Instead, we want to say, well, we want to show the next button, but in certain conditions. So what I can do here is to add a display condition. So when do I want the next button to be shown? So I just click that, and now I can add a display condition. From the drop-down list, there are lots and lots of different types of display conditions, and we're going to be having a look at a few of these today. But the one I want to use here is called the screen status display condition. This is a really useful one because what it does is monitor what's going on the screen. And this condition will only trigger when whatever's on the screen has been completed. So what I'm going to do here is to say monitor the screen one here. And the condition that I want here is for it to be complete. We have these other conditions. They will, once they've started interacting, so if they've clicked on something, then I could trigger something else happening. But for this next button, I'm going to say only show the next button when everything on this screen is complete. So I just update that, apply, and let's save that. And I'm just going to go back to my preview and just quickly hit the preview button there. That's good, just going to reload it. So again, so what I've done there is to impose a condition at the screen level on the next button. So here I just went into the navigation and tracking section, found my next button and added this screen status display condition to say that's complete. So if I've done this right now, notice we don't have a next button. So now I can begin to interact with the elements on the screen. So I've looked at all of the steps in the accordion there, but because we also have a film strip, this screen isn't going to be complete until I've done everything on it. So I need to also have a look here at all of the steps in the film strip. I had 3 steps there. So Gomo now knows that I've completed all of the steps of the accordion and I've looked at all of the steps in the film strip. And now you can see that's display condition to say the screen is complete is triggered. And so I now have the next button. And now I can choose to move on to the next screen. So that's a really simple but useful way to be able to, if you want to create that kind of screen gating there. But it can also be used in other ways. What I'm going to do is just add in another screen in here. And a really useful way here is for the use of media elements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some video. And here what I can do, Gomo always adds in just some sample content for us. So I can just choose to change that. If I hadn't uploaded my video already, I could just drag and drop that and upload it. I'm just going to use one here, just a simple one I created on my iPhone there. And now what I can do here is use exactly the same thing in terms of locking this screen, because I'm going to say, well, I don't want them to be able to move forward until they've actually looked at the video. So what I can do here is we can do exactly the same thing. So I can click the configure button on the right hand side in navigation and tracking and apply the same display condition to monitor the screen status. There we go, we're on screen 2 and wait for that to be complete. So it doesn't matter whether we've got film strips or accordions or videos and so forth on there, that it will just monitor whatever is interactive on the screen and then trigger after that. But that's fine. But if you want to be really rigorous about this, is that with the video player there, if I just preview that, it's going to show the video. It's not going to show the next button here. But if I play this, there we go. That's how Brighton is looking today. You can see I don't have the next button, but what I can do as a learner is say, oh, I can't be bothered to watch all of this. So they could just scrub through it with the scrubber bar. Now you can see that that next button now appears. Now, if you want to be really strict about this and to say, I really want to control the whole learner journey here, that not only do I want not to show the next button until the video is finished, but I want to make sure that they do actually watch all of that video before moving on. So we can make a refinement here. So what I can do here is now with the video player, you've got these controls here on the right hand side in the media settings. I can control which elements are going to appear in that video play bar. So I could actually remove the progress bar there. So again, I'm being very strict with the learners. Again, it's entirely your decision in terms of your instructional design, whether you consider this to be a good or a bad thing for your learners. But this is the technicalities of how you do that. So what I'm going to do there is let's just save that away. Let's go back to our screen and just refresh it. And now if I've done this right, we should still have the video that we can play, but what we should see is that we don't have the option just to scrub through it. Oh, here we go. We have our video player. And now you can see that I don't have that little progress bar, that scrubber bar. So I have to actually watch the whole of the video there. Fortunately, this one isn't too long. And so now at the end, so the screen is now complete and I now get my next button. So again, this refinement about the whole learner experience and how we're going to gate the content here. Just another thing to mention here in terms of video, that notice there we were just showing the next button once the video has been completed. However, there might be occasions where you want to, particularly if you're creating, say, a video scenario. So you want to show the learner a video of a particular scenario, and then you want to just move on automatically. Once the video is finished, you want to move on and maybe to ask them a question about what would you do in this particular scenario. So rather than waiting for them to click next, you can move straight on. So let's have a look at exactly how you do that. And what we have with the video player here is we can attach actions to it. So actions are like triggers, so you can add these to buttons and so forth, but also now you can add it to video as well in here. So what I could do here, I could say, add an action. Again, just like display conditions, there's lots of things that I can do. But here I could actually say, just immediately link to the next screen. So what that would mean is the end of the video here, it's just going to move straight on. So I'm sort of helping the learner with their journey here. And as I mentioned, we see this used quite often by our customers for those type of video branching scenarios. Oh, here we go. So now when I click play, it will just, again, I can't scrub through it, so I'd watch the scenario here. And then once it gets to the end, it should just trigger that automatically for me. There we go. And it moves on to the next screen. So that could be where you have your question about what would you do in this scenario, and based on their answer, take them maybe to different videos to show the consequences of their actions. So a bit of a concept there for video scenario-based learning, which you might find useful. Right, let's just have a look at, while we're looking at screen sequencing, I just want to show you as well about questions. So I'm going to get rid of that screen. I'm going to add in a question. And here, so I might have a question, just standard default question. So I put in the question text. Where is Gomo's HQ headquarters, for example. I choose how the learner is going to answer this question. So here in my list of assets, I can choose all these different types. I'm going to choose the basic but simple and useful multiple choice question. So here I can specify how many attempts. I'm only going to allow them one attempt. We have all the possible answers, and we can tell Gomo which is right and which are wrong, and if this is part of an assessment. But here also I want to gate this. So I'm just going to add in a screen after that. Now, what I can do if I purely want to just lock this to say you can't move on, say, to the next question until you've answered this question. Of course, I could do exactly the same as I've done with those other screens. I would add a display condition to the next button. And if I don't care whether they've got it right or wrong, I would use exactly that display condition, the screen status. That will just look to see basically whether the screen is complete, in this case, whether they've answered the question. That's fine, but actually you can do something a bit more subtle than that. And this is a question that we get asked quite often by our customers, as in, I only want them to be able to move on if they get the question right. And we can do that in Gomo, and I'm sure that you'll find similar mechanisms in other tools. But and what we can do, again, I want to apply a display condition. So I'm going to tell Gomo when I want to show that next button. We have this display condition here called asset correctness. Now, asset correctness, that just means, did they get the question right or wrong? So I choose the question, there's my multiple choice question. And so if the asset correctness is true, so basically if they get the question right, then show that next button. But it's only going to show that next button if they get it right. But what I could also do, because I could say, well, what happens if they don't get the question right? Well, a typical scenario would be that we're going to be really strict and say you can't progress in terms of, say, the assessment unless you get all the questions right. If they get the question wrong, I'm going to drop in a button here and align that. And I'm going to say if they get the question wrong, I want to show a review button so that they have to click that review button, and that's going to take them back to the part of the course that relates to the question that's being asked. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to tell Gomo what I want to happen when they click that button. So I add an action, again, these triggers here. And I'm going to say that I want to link to a screen, and maybe I want to just link out. I can say, well, actually, this actually relates to the content in topic 3. But now I also have to tell Gomo, when do I want to show that button? I don't want that button always to be available. I only want to show it if they get the question wrong. So what I'm going to do here, again, this is, if we're showing and hiding things, this is where the display conditions come in. So here, I'm going to add in the same asset correctness. I'm monitoring whether they've got that question right or wrong. It's the same question, but this time I say if the asset correctness is false. That just means that if they get the question wrong. So I'm just going to click Update, save that. And let's just have a look at how that works. I'm just going to go to the top left. I'm just going to preview from that screen, just while that's updating. Let's just go through that again. So what I wanted here with the question is to say they can only see the next button if they get the question right. So what I did there was to just go in and look at the navigation and tracking section, and I added a display condition to that to say, if the question's right, show the next button. I then had this other one here, which just said, something a bit unresponsive there. Hope it's not my internet connection going. So let's have a look at what that is. And what we also said there was, well, if they don't get the question right, then don't let them move forwards. They have to then just review the material. So here, the correct answer is Brighton here in the UK. So if I get that right, I can give them feedback, and you can see that button's appeared. We just refresh that, do it again. We'll just have a look at what happens when I get it wrong. So now if I get it wrong, tells me that I didn't get it right. And now I don't have the next button. Instead, I have this review button. And if I click that, it will just take me to a different part of the course, as I say, typically to recap on that material. So all of these things are ways to be able to control the progression through the screens within, in Gomo's sense, a topic. And again, do feel free to ask questions in the question panel. Oh, I see that we have a question from Mugda about, can we use the same to create branching scenarios? Yes, we'll be having a look at this whole area of dynamic branching for scenarios in just a moment. So I hope that's going to answer your question there. Right, the next thing is that we've seen at the menu level here, we have our menu buttons, and we can access those in any order. But there are times when you want to sequence that you don't want the learner to access things in any order. And let's just have a look at 2 typical situations there. So what I'm going to do here, let's just make sure we've saved that. And we're going to go back to close down some of these. We're going to go back to the menu. And let's have a look at the behavior. So I'm just going to open up the menu topic here in the editor. And we're going to, just before I move on there, I can see that Craig's asked a question about how would you get back to the next question without having to go through, I think that's, just see if I can see the whole question there. I think it's probably about whether having to go through the whole assessment again. Well, in this particular case, the idea is we're being ultra strict to say, actually, if you get a question wrong, that's the assessment over for you, that you would have to take them out of there, and then they would need to then redo the assessment. So this is the strictest possible scenario for an assessment. Typically, that you might just want to give somebody maybe just feedback about why that answer was wrong, and then let them move on to the next question. So here, this is just being very, very strict. Right, let's have a look at locking at the topic level from the menu. So at the moment, we've seen that we have 4 menu buttons. We can label those in different ways, obviously, but at the moment, I can look at these in any order. So I could look at topic 1 before I look at topic 2, topic 2 before I look at topic 1, and so on. But let's have a look at the first thing where we want to gate these sequentially. So you can't look at topic 2 until you look at topic 1. You can't look at topic 3 until you've looked at topic 2. So the way that we do that is to, again, use display conditions. So we want to show and hide things based on certain things happening. So the first thing is here, I always want the topic 1 button to be available. So when they come into the course, they can go into topic 1. So I don't need to add in any kind of display condition and logic to that. But with topic 2, I'm going to add a display condition. So I just make sure I highlight the button, add a display condition. And this time, rather than using screen status or asset correctness, the one I'm looking for is this one called topic completion. So Gomo is going to be monitoring whether a learner has completed these topics. And in this case, on the topic 2 button, I'm going to say monitor the status of topic 1. And once the topic 1 is complete, so topic completion is true, then show that button. Similarly here with topic 3, I could add a display condition to that. So it's the same one, it's topic completion, but we're looking at topic 2. So once topic 2 is complete, show that. And finally, for completion, we'll just also add one to that topic 4 button. So topic 3, once topic 3 is complete, then show that, and they'll all be unlocked. So let's just check our mechanism here. And we'll just quickly preview that. So this is all to do with sequential unlocking here. So here, what I'm expecting to see is that we'll just see, at the moment, we just have our topic 1. So that's the only thing I can do at the moment. So, and of course, we have screen locking. So here, not only do I have to do topic 1 first, but I also have to interact with all of the elements. And of course here, I switched off the play bar, so we just have to wait for that to move and so forth. So what this is going to do is eventually we'll have moved through these screens in the topic. And so here it triggers. So again, we have this sequence through, it automatically moves on. If I get that right, I can move on to my final screen in the topic. Now, when I go back here, you can see it's showing that this topic is complete. And now it's that display condition is triggered to show me the next one. And if we went into topic 2 here, and we don't have looking there, we just have 2 basic screens. So I've completed that one. I've now completed topic 2, and so it unlocks topic 3. So this is a great start. Now, the problem from the point of view of the learner experience is when they come into the course, we'd actually hidden these buttons. So from the learner perspective, as far as they're aware, there's only one topic in here, and we've given a rough indication it's going to take them 2 minutes. So they have no sense of the fact that there are all these additional topics that they're going to need to work through. So we can refine this further. We can add logic to give them some indication that there are topics there. It's just that they can't get to them at the moment. So what I'm going to do here is go back to my assets, and I'm going to add in some dummy menu buttons here. So I just find my menu button assets. So I'm going to add one here, and I'm going to call this one, say, content topic 1. Topic 1. And I'm just going to very simply, this is the simplest way to do it. You could be using graphics instead to indicate that there's a grayed out button, but here I'm just going to label it as content topic 1 locked. Now, I'm not going to add any actions because that's not going to do anything. So they can click on it, but it's not going to do anything. In effect, it's locked. Now I need to add in the logic here in terms of when do I want to show this? So again, we add in a display condition to this button. And again, we're looking at the topic completion, but we just have the reverse logic here from, I'm going to say that, let me just label that, that should in fact say topic 2, because that's the one that we're going to be unlocking. So I add the display condition, and here we're looking at topic completion, and we're still monitoring that topic 1, but here I'm going to say topic completion is false. What that means is as long as the first topic, content topic 1, isn't complete, I want to show the locked version of that button. Then we know when it is complete, it's going to show this version. So we can just quickly do the same for, say, for these other ones. So this is going to be content topic 3. There we go, it's auto-filling it. That's going to be locked and so forth. Now, this time I would add the display condition to say monitor content topic 2. And as long as content topic 2 isn't complete, then show the locked version of that. And I could do the same for 4 as well. But for time, we'll just have a quick check here. So I'm going to refresh my menu. Just while that's updating, we'll just go back to this. So first of all, we'd impose this logic flow to say, well, don't show the menu button for topic 2 until topic 1's complete. Don't show the button for topic 3 until topic 2 is complete. But that didn't give us any sense of how many topics there are. So we added in these, in effect, these dummy menu buttons, which don't do anything, but they indicate there's something there, but it's locked. So here we go. So here you can see that it's showing me that I can go into content topic 1, but it's showing me that there's something there, but these are locked. They're not doing anything, but at least from the learner's perspective, they know there is something there. And here, if I was to go into that, then what it would do is to, once I'd completed topic 1, it would then hide this version of the button, and it would show me the live menu button for content topic 2, so then the learner could go into that and so forth. Once I'd finished that, it would then unlock this one as well. So that gives me both my sequential unlocking, but also it's just this refinement to give an indication to the learner that give them a sense when they go into the course about how much learning content is there that they're going to need to do, how much time should they allow, and so on. Let's have a look at another use of the logic on menus, because what can also happen is that particularly if you've got an assessment, that a typical case here for a lot of our customers is that they say, well, actually, I don't really care in what order they do the learning topics. The important thing is that I don't want them to be able to get to the assessment until they've actually completed all of the other learning topics in any order. So we're going to have a slightly different logic here. So the first thing is I'm going to get rid of my dummy locked buttons here because we're not going to be locking those. I'm also going to be getting rid of my display conditions on those menu buttons because again, I'm not going to say there's any locking on those. But here I'm going to say that, for example, this is my assessment topic. Okay, that's my assessment. And now I want to say, well, actually, I only want to show this assessment button. I only want them to be able to get to the assessment once they've actually completed everything in any particular order. So what I do here is to go in and let's remove that original display condition. Now the logic that I want here is say only show this button when all of the other 3 topics are complete. So we do the same thing. So I can say once topic 1 is complete, so completion is true, but now I can add in multiple triggers here. So I'm saying, well, I don't want to show it unless topic 2 is complete as well and topic completion of topic 3. So again, so the logic here is to say show this assessment menu button once topic 1, topic 2, topic 3 is complete, but they'll be able to do those in any order. Obviously, I could have completely gated these and made them sequential as we were looking at just now. But in this case, it's only going to show that assessment button when those are complete. That's fine, but again, we're sort of going to fall into the same problem, is that the learner, when they first go into the menu, they'll see that there are 3 topics, but they won't be aware that there's an assessment that they're going to need to take at the end. So we can use that same technique that we used before, where I can add in just a dummy locked version of the assessment, just so they know there is an assessment, but it's locked. And now we just need to add in a bit more logic here. So with all these things, whichever tool you're using, the important thing is to think through the logic about what you're trying to achieve. And you'll find that certainly with Gomo, there's usually always a way to be able to do that. So the logic here is I'm going to say, I want to show the locked version of this as long as they haven't completed all of the topics. So if this one isn't complete, or this one isn't complete, or this one isn't complete. So let's have a look at the logic for that. So I'm going to add a display condition. And I'm going to here use the same one, topic completion. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to say, well, if topic 1 isn't complete, I want to show that button, we know that. But now here, we've got this option here of all, which is an AND function. So that's what we used on the main assessment button to say if topic 1 is complete and topic 2 is complete. But here, I want to say any, which is essentially the OR function. So what this means now is that I can say, so if topic 1 isn't complete, or it isn't complete, or topic 2 isn't complete, or topic 3 isn't complete. So these are all OR functions. So that's saying as long as any of those isn't complete, show the locked version of the assessment button. And then once they are all complete, we know that the logic will then kick in and it will show the assessment and they'll be able to do the assessment. So again, with all of these techniques, you don't have to do these, but it's entirely up to you in terms of learning design. But I think it's important for you to sort of have these techniques in your toolbox, really, so that, for example, if your subject matter specialists come to you and say, well, actually, we really need the assessment to be locked until they've completed it, then you've got a sense that that is actually possible within your learning design. Okay, I want to move on to dynamic branching, but I'm just going to check whether we have any further questions there. And do keep those questions coming. I can't see any new ones yet, but we'll pick those up at the end as well if you have new questions. Now, I mentioned about dynamic branching. So what we want to do there is to control the learner journey through the course, not just based on them selecting menus, menu buttons, and maybe locking the assessment as we saw there, but actually creating dynamic branching. So based on a choice that they make at the beginning, that will determine their whole path through the course. And the one that I want to show you here is a useful example, but it can be used in lots of different ways. I'm just going to show you this. I just built this earlier just to save time. I just want to explain what this does and how it does it. Because this is about setting up, in this case, a job role filter. So you go into the course and the first thing that you're asked is what your particular job function, what your job role is. Gomo is going to remember that choice using what we call variables. And then what they see on the screen, and in fact, the whole path through the course is going to depend on that choice that they've made. So let's have a look at how we do this. So I don't need a menu because we're actually going to control the flow actually through the choice that they make of the job role. So here we have an introduction, and then I've also added in these topics. So we're going to have 3 job roles: sales, technical, and administration. And I want to both change what's shown on the screen within the introduction topic, but also how they branch through the course based on that. And the first thing that I need to do is to create somewhere for Gomo to be able to store that choice of job role. Now in Gomo, we do that through the use of variables. Essentially, these are ways to be able to store it. And the way that we create a new variable here in actions is to say create a new variable. And what I already have here is the variable that I created called job. So let me just edit that to show you the way this works. So I just give it a name, in this case, just job. I don't need to give it a default value because we're going to actually select what's going to be stored in there based on the job role. One note here in terms of Gomo is that for these variables where they're going to be storing information, you can actually make that value persistent. Now, by that, what we mean is when you're running this from, say, from a SCORM learning management system, if the user leaves the course halfway through, then by default, it would actually forget the values that are stored in that variable. So, but in this particular case, for example, we might want to say, well, if they resume it, we still want to know what job role they selected. So I can make that persistent so that when they resume, whatever value, whatever they've chosen as their job role, the course will know about that on relaunch. So just remember that you can make those choices persistent. So we now have somewhere to actually store that job role choice. Now let's go back in and see how we can actually use that in terms of the learning design. So I'm going to open up my introduction here. And the first thing here that we've got two screens in this topic. The first one is to prompt for, well, what's your job role? Obviously, this technique is general. It doesn't just apply to job roles. It just shows you how you can remember a choice and then have this kind of dynamic content and dynamic branching in here. So what I've got is 3 buttons, and what these buttons do, I have actions attached to them. Remember, these actions are triggers. And the key thing here is that I have an action to set the value of the variable. And in my course here, I've only got one variable. It's the one I created called job. And now I just store a value in it. So for sales, when they select sales, I'm going to store the word sales in that variable. Also here, just as a refinement, it also automatically links to the next screen so that they don't have to then click next. So they just select their job role, moves on to the introduction screen. And of course, these have the same features here. So I can set that to be, say, store that for the word technical if they're technical and so forth. I can then, once that's stored in the variable, I can then go in and then use that in different ways. The first thing is I could display to the learner just what they chose. And the way that we do that in Gomo is just we use that these parentheses there, what I'd call curly brackets, and put the value of the variable. So whatever is stored in there, it will show it there. And now this is where we can get dynamic content. So we want to change what's shown on this screen based on the particular job role that they've chosen. So in this case, for example, I want to explain this course, say from a sales perspective or from an administration role perspective. So I've just put in some dummy text in here. So I've got some text that's going to explain it from sales, technical, and so forth. But by default, it would just show all of that text. But I want to make this more dynamic. I want to say, show this text if they've selected the sales role. So what I can do here is add in a display condition. So we've been using display conditions throughout this webinar. And so here, what I do is add a display condition, but this time the display condition we're going to use, so we're not using screen status, topic completion, or whatever. We're going to base whether this is shown or not based on what's stored in a variable. And the variable we're using, of course, is the one that we have in this course. And so we're going to say, show this text if what's stored in the variable job is sales. So if they selected the sales role. And it will be the same for these as well. So only show the technical introduction text if they've selected the technical role, if that's what's stored in the variable. So we're changing what's shown on a screen. It's still the same course, but what the text they'll see will actually depend on that, that actual role that they've chosen that's been stored in that variable. But also I want to make the whole journey through the course dynamic as well. And I want to do that by having a next button so they see the introduction explained from the point of view of their job role. I want to have a next button on the screen, but where that next button goes to, I want it to depend on the actual role that they've chosen. So here I've got 3 buttons. These are going to correspond to the 3 job roles. Now, obviously, I don't want these to appear on the screen at the same time. I don't want to see 3 next buttons. So instead, what I do is, in the same way as we applied the display condition to the text, each of these has a display condition for the job role. So that's my sales one, my technical one, and so forth. So based on the role that they select in that first screen, it will show one of these next buttons. Now what I can do is attach actions, say, well, what's going to happen with these buttons? So this one that's going to be shown if I select sales, what I want to do here is the action, I want to link to one of those topics. So what I say is that this version of the next button will link to my sales topic, which will give the sales training. So, and similarly, this one is going to link to my technical topic, so on. So the important point here is that we're creating this dynamic branching. So we're changing not only what's shown on the screen, but the whole path here that the learner is going to go through. So if they select technical, it's going to eventually route them through to the technical topic or sales and so forth. It's all the same course, but with dynamic branching. Let's just have a look at the way that that works. So here's just some practice. So here, for example, if I select sales, moves on to that second screen. It's showing me that I've selected my job role as sales, and it's only showing me the introduction text for sales, showing me just one next button. Now, if I click on that, it takes me to the sales topic. If I go back and choose another one, like I'm in an administration role, shows me the introduction text from an administration role perspective, and then it branches me through to the administration topic. So we're seeing this kind of dynamic branching there. So just to summarize here, so what we've looked at is the idea of managing the learner journey in 3 different ways. That we've looked at the idea of screen locking to get over this whole thing about people just clicking next as quickly as possible just to get through the material and you don't know whether they actually looked at it or not. So we added in that gating using display conditions, waiting for all the interactions to be complete. We then had a look at a refinement of that kind of screen locking for the use of questions. But if we want to be more strict and to say you can only move on if you get the question right. So we were just triggering that next button only when they got the question right. And if they got the question wrong, we added in that button to say, well, take them out of the assessment and take them to review the material again. We then had a look at that concept of the locking of menu buttons. So to be able to gate the top level building blocks here, the topics in Gomo, so that we could say you can't move on and look at the second learning topic till you've completed the first one and so forth. We then had to look at how we can at least give the learner an indication that there's content there, it's just they can't get at it. And then we looked at the logic to say, the thing I'm interested in is locking the assessment, that I don't care what order they do the learning topics in, but until they've completed all of them, they can't get to the assessment. Once they have looked at them, then it will then let them get to the assessment. And we had to look at the logic both for the real assessment button, but then also the locked version. And then finally, the thing that we've just looked at is about creating that dynamic branching, about how do we control the whole flow through the course. And that gives us the flexibility there. So we've got all those techniques, which I hope that certainly you'll be able to apply in Gomo, but also those broad principles that you could apply in any authoring tool. And I can see that we've just had a couple of questions come in here, so let's address that. About Magda's asking about, is there any reason why we used any instead of and? Well, that's all to do with the refinement of the logic. So that was specifically to do with how we were looking at our menu and in particular the assessment button. So there, the logic was for the real button. I didn't want to let them go to the assessment unless they had completed topic 1 and they had completed topic 2 and then completed topic 3. Whereas for the locked version, it's a bit more subtle in terms of the logic, because there I was saying, if topic 1 isn't complete, or topic 2 isn't complete, or topic 3 isn't complete, and that's what this any is. It's an or function to say, as long as any of those aren't complete, show the locked version of the assessment. So they can't just complete topic 1 and then it will remove the locked version. So this gives you that logic flexibility. So it might seem a bit subtle, but it can be really powerful when you're trying to just figure out exactly the logic you want for the learner journey. And also, I see that we have a question from Sharbin there about, can you assess the completion of the learning with passing grades using the dynamic branching as well? Yes, indeed you can. That you could certainly, for example, set up a pre-assessment. We don't have time to go into that, but you could, based on the score in a pre-assessment, then you could choose what you're going to, either the path or what menu buttons you're going to unlock as well. So it's really powerful, really flexible way of doing things. You just need to think through the logic that you want. Well, I realize that we're at the top of the hour. We just have one final poll that we'd like to present to you just at the end. If you wouldn't mind just taking a few moments, I think Harley is going to show us a poll very, very similar to the one at the beginning. We just want to see just how confident are you now in using interactive elements, having looked at what we've shown this today there, and we'll just have a look at how that's coming through. That's great. It looks as if a lot more people now are feeling confident or very confident about using these interactive elements. So we're really pleased that you got something out of this afternoon's webinar. So it just remains for me to say thank you very much for you all tuning in today. We really appreciate it, particularly across the world in different time zones. Please do get in touch with us if you have further questions, or if you haven't already, to be able to trial Gomo. You can email us at contact@gomolearning.com, or via our gomolearning.com website. You'll see a request a trial or request a demo button there. So thank you very much, everyone, for this latest series of Gomo webinars. We'll be letting you know about the next one, which I believe is coming up, I think, in a few weeks' time. But all I'll say is enjoy the rest of the day wherever you are in the world, and we look forward to meeting with you again soon. Thank you.